Unsolicited genius.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another conversation with Carlton. I am joined by my esteemed guest, Roy Hawkins Jr. He is the president of the North Market for Atrium Health. Greetings, Roy. What's up? How you doing, my brother?
My man, my mellow Carlton. How are you, brother? I am doing amazing, man. On vacation, taking time out to talk to a good friend, but life is good, and I am extremely proud of you and elated to be on this podcast with you today.
Thank you. Thank you. You look like you at a remote location. Tell the audience where you are right now.
Brother, I am on my 2-week annual family vacation in Martha's Vineyard. We are here surrounded by all this Black excellence and love, and just here to unwind and connect and reconnect and disconnect and all of the above. But yeah, representing the prestigious fraternity Omega Psi Phi that I'm a member of, and brothers on the vineyard this week, having a good time.
Cool. So just so the world knows, you are one of the few people in my life that I definitively define as a big brother. You and I basically came up in our own different ways in the healthcare industry. And, with over 20 plus years of connection and friendship, I've learned a lot from you. Hopefully I've been able to drop a few nuggets for you to maintain. But at the end of the day, I wanted you on because, one, we always have a good time chatting. But as I stated your title, you are a leader personified. I'd say that you are a leader personified in the profession of healthcare. And take a few minutes to tell our audience what your life craft is as you define it.
Man, it's amazing just listening to you just talk about our bond and our friendship for over the last 20 plus years. But I think one thing that's very special about our relationship is both of us grew up in the same environment. We grew up, born, raised in Miami, Florida, 305. And, I think from day one, that was a sacred bond that we shared growing up, understanding the challenges, understanding the opportunities, and also understanding the triumphs that we both experienced growing up in Miami. So I'm very proud of that upbringing. Spent time in Miami and then went to undergraduate school at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And there is really where I found this just new world of Black excellence and a love, an authentic love for our people, for our culture, for our race. And so that's what's really the plateau, I think, for my career, finding organizations like NACI that then help to just make connections, lifelong connections with great friends like you in the healthcare industry. But yeah, as you mentioned, I've been in this business for, man, 24 years in the healthcare industry.
Old school.
Old school, man, old and wise, man. I look back and think, this year marks the 25th anniversary for me graduating from undergraduate. So I am getting up there, man.
Ooh, not even high school no more, huh? Carol City was even that much longer ago.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be 30 years next year from high school. Man, I wouldn't change one thing about it, brother. Relationships and friendships with people like you that I've established along the way. But I think as you talk about my craft and my career, I've been doing this since a freshman in undergraduate at Howard University, interning through organizations like NACI, right? And being introduced to the field of healthcare administration. And I got the bug and saw that it was something that not only I enjoyed, but something that I was good at. And meeting people like you and others early on in my career, surrounding myself by other African-American Black executives in the industry is really I think is the foundation of my journey. And now I am blessed, man. It's not often in corporate environments that you get an opportunity to have a Black boss, right? And so I'm very honored and I'm proud to work with Eugene Woods, who's the CEO of Atrium Health. Recruited me on to his team a year ago next week, actually. And so now I've spent a lot of time, as you know, as a hospital executive, the CEO of hospitals, and now I get the pleasure of serving as a regional president for Atrium Health with the scope of 4 acute care facilities, 5 freestanding emergency rooms, and 4 ambulatory surgery centers. And it really just gives me an opportunity to focus on the health and the health status for a community, a larger community of people in the Charlotte region. So that's the work that I'm blessed to do and I love to do. And again, it serves as a pivotal point in my life because I've had my opportunity to meet people like you during that journey.
And you know what if not evident in everything that you shared, the thing that I appreciate, well, it is evident, but what I do appreciate is the love and the passion that you give your job. You know, whenever we talk, yeah, there's frustrations, but it's never a frustration that I should be doing something else. I shouldn't have did this. I'm going to go somewhere else. You in it to do it. You in it to succeed, but not just for yourself, but for the communities at large. And without a doubt, always in representation of where we come from. So
I appreciate that because as I think about this work and the blessing that God has afforded me, it gives me an opportunity. My passion is mentoring. My passion is giving back. So it gives me an opportunity to do that on multiple levels, right? I have, over 7,000 people that report up through me through some form of channel. And so I get an opportunity to impact 7,000 individuals and then just multiply that by their families, et cetera. But more importantly, I also get a chance to bring those folks together to deliver world-class healthcare and to make sure that people in the communities that we serve have high quality healthcare, they have access to healthcare, regardless of their ability to pay for those services. And so it gives me an opportunity to do that on both ends, both with my team members and with the folks who we serve in our community. So it's a life love of passion of mine to do this work.
Cool. And real quick, before I forget, shout out to Eugene Woods, who is also, as extraordinary of a healthcare leader person that he is also a musician. And we'll get into some music stuff, but I don't want to forget to give Gene Woods a shout out and tell everybody to go look him up, check him out. Apple, iTunes, Gene Woods, YouTube. I even think got some videos out there.
Yeah.
He's a great musician, so check him out.
Amazing.
All right, my brother. So what I wanted to jump into it with you is around the value of Black organizations. In our news, depending on your vantage point, there's some that think there's an attack on Black. There's a lot of conversation about, white supremacy. There's a lot of conversation about, diversity, equity. There's a lot of stuff in the stratosphere around Black, white, and how we do the things that we do on a daily basis. But you went to Howard at HBCU, and where you and I met is through the National Association for Health Service Executives, which is a Black organization for Black leaders to help us connect in order to serve the underserved. And I just attended the conference for African American financial planners. First time attending, did some coaching there, made some great contacts, great connections. But what I took away is that what our organization, NACI, does, what CAAFP does, is the same. It makes an effort to bring together Black leaders so that they can connect, strategize, and come up with an approach to the day-to-day in a world where we are the professional minority. Statistically across the country, I think Blacks 12%, depending on where you are. That's what it is in Austin. But in the corporate space, we can be the percentage point of a percentage point with the same goals, expectations, objectives of our colleagues that make up the majority. So all that to say, how do you view the value of these Black organizations, be it the school, be it the association, be it our Greeks?
Man, there's so much to unpack there. Again, at 47 years old, 25 years out of undergraduate school, and having an experience in this journey on this thing called life, with going to an HBCU, being a part of a fraternity, being a part of predominantly Black organizations, and navigating through the space of the majority, our majority world, which is in corporate America. So a lot to unpack there. The first thing I will tell you is the value of historically Black institutions for me is simple. It is being around people who are like-minded, being around people of similar attainment, and having an opportunity to discuss those challenges that we face in this journey, right? So that's really the value of it. It's not, what I call, it's not a wade in the water sermon like woe is us. It is
Right.
how do we reconnect, recharge, and forge forward, right? And so having that connectiveness is very important, man. I think we all need it. It's refueling and refreshing. I'll tell you, being here on Martha's Vineyard for the last 2 weeks, we have, as always, every year you come in contact with many different people, both Black and white, from all walks of life. But I was having a conversation with a gentleman the other day, and he said, "Hey, you went to Howard? We're having a Howard event. Hey, you went to Howard?" I go, "Yeah." He says, "Man, I can't tell you, I can't remember one name of an individual from my undergraduate time." And I go, "Well, that's sad, man, because I'll look at the last 7 calls in my phone, or somebody from undergraduate, or from Nazi, or for someone who I've met along this journey." And so the value of those relationships, the value of being in a safe environment where you can share stories and seek advice and create lifelong bonds and friendships. And I'm not saying I only have Black friends, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is a sacred relationship that I have with my colleagues, peers, and friends that I've met through these historically Black organizations, right? There is a shared experience there that I think helps to elevate and build us all.
You use the word recharge, and I think about that one when, for NACI, its conferences once a year. A lot of the associations, amongst the business that they do throughout the year, there is an annual meeting of sorts. This week was CAAFP's annual. And so that recharge, man, that's the thing that I think was the most unexpected, because, for 365, you're on the grind, you're doing the best you know how. Oftentimes, at least from a, ethnic standpoint, you feel the weight of being the minority, don't have anybody immediately to discuss these nuances with. And I work with some great people, work for some great organizations, so I'm not necessarily suggesting that I'm on an island, but it's just some things that I want to talk about that they wouldn't necessarily have the empathy and understanding to discuss. So getting together, being with everybody, seeing everybody in their suits, smelling the colognes and the perfume, seeing the new suit styles,
all
and
of that
then
melanin, all of that
that
melanin.
melanin and the heat that it generates, because the room is a little hotter sometimes. But the knowledge, coming across somebody who is on the other side of the country experiencing the same thing that you are, and just being able to look at each other and be like, man, you too, that does something. And it's a stress release. It's a motivator, it's inspirational, but I have found that those 4 or 5 days that we get to network and learn empower me and give me an energy that carry me forward, unlike any other event or venue that I might go to, a concert, a play, a movie.
Yeah.
Those things work in the moment. They're good for the night,
Yeah.
even, maybe last a week. But I find that the energy I get from Nasi, that carries me, if not 12 months, for 10, 11 of them. Because, we get to that point where it's like, man, I need this. I need to see my people. I need to see y'all. So it does come down, but it also is real. And when I was at CAAFP this week, they hadn't met in person, I guess, over a year, if not two, because of COVID. And to be an outsider looking in, but to gain insight from each encounter, it was the same thing for them too. And so, I think about the feedback that we've gotten, in particular in the healthcare space, where some have suggested NACI isn't necessary. But I would definitely say that it has a place, it has a purpose, plenty more for us to do. But in terms of what it means to me, what it's done for you, what it's done for us, it's priceless. And I think I would love to be able to not showcase that, because it's not to show it off, but make others know that we're out here. If you're in healthcare, we're here for you. If you're a financial planner, we're here for you. If you're an engineer, there's an organization that's out there for you. And go ahead and go get that nourishment, because that's what helps you get through those challenges, overcome those obstacles. No man is an island, and it for sure takes a village.
For sure. I love listening to and talking about race, right? Because it's relevant, it's important, and it's fortunately or unfortunately who we are as a country. I'll tell you a story. A couple months ago, I'm working in Charlotte now, and so I got a group of guys that go to the gym. We do yoga. We kind of hang out together, and there happen to be white guys, and we decided one day after the gym that we were going to meet up across the street at the mall, get some lunch. I needed to take some things back to an upscale store, and their thought process was, hey, we're in our gym clothes, we're a little sweaty. Let's go ahead and meet across the street at the store, and then have lunch. I go, guys, I'm going to need about an hour because I need to go home to my apartment to change my clothes, and then I'll meet you guys there. White guys looking at me. Why do you need to go and change your clothes? Well, I'm a 6'3" black guy rolling up in Neiman Marcus, okay? And the moment I walk in there looking this way, I'm going to be stereotyped. Someone's going to give me a side eye. So to avoid all of that, I'm going to go just, get fresh and, come in, walk in the place and make sure, and having to explain that to, there are many black folks who understand that story, and I would have to explain it 1 second to them. But I find myself educating my white friends and colleagues around the world that we walk in and how we have to view things, and how unfortunately we have to make adjustments or readjustments to things, just from an optics perspective, right? To help avoid some of those unfortunate stereotypes that come along with being black. And so to connect this to the Nasi or to the black experience, it's time for us to get together and not have to think about all of that, or or share strategies on how to navigate in the boardroom when people are having stereotypes about us as a people. And so I think the value of those organizations, man, are priceless. The networking opportunities are unparalleled, and for us, I think it's iron sharpening iron. And I look forward to seeing many more organizations like that to support Black folks, but also the longevity of the ones that you and I have come to know and love for so long.
I want to ask you too, about the HBCU experience. I go Gators, University of Florida's predominantly white university. But I always say I'm FAMU affiliated based on all the homecomings I attended and my family
Sure.
members going there. But I wasn't a student there. And so as I look in the sports world, you got Dion at Jackson State really trying to push out or bring attention to the athletes and them choosing and the value that they might experience when they go to a HBCU. So in going to Howard and just having the connection that you do, I know every event, every anniversary, every reunion at Howard, you're there. That's how it's in your heart. What is your perspective on the role of an HBCU, not so much for what it was for you and what it is for you specifically, but my son is be 13 next month. Your son be going to college soon. What do you see the role of an HBCU as it stands today and for the things that we want for our children going forward?
I love it, man. And again, I get chills just hearing you frame the question, right? Because the response is so multifactorial, and I can share perspectives from various angles on the HBCU experience. I'll tell you a very real example that we're going through now. My son Dallas is 15, and because of my wife and our's collective success, Dallas goes to a private school in South Florida. Fortunate or unfortunately, he is surrounded by predominantly white people. He navigates extremely well in that space. Very proud of him taking leadership roles, playing sports, being extremely bright, and connectedness to. He has friends from all over the place, right? So I'm very
Shout out to Bianca, because we know where he get it from.
Shout out to Bianca. You're absolutely right. And so I love it. And, but Bianca and I are very intentional about his experiences, right? So, of course, he's connected through Jack and Jill, where he gets that experience from. But the conversations we're having now, because he's in 10th grade, and so some of his friends who are in 11th and 12th are going to some of the predominantly white universities, and it's no doubt that Dallas it's eligible, and we'll get into any of those schools that he chooses to go to. But we've been very intentional about taking him to the FAMU homecomings, taking him to the Howard homecomings, being on the Martha's Vineyard with all his Black excellence. And so he's come to his own conclusion that he would like to have an HBCU experience, having gone through the experience that he's in. So it's really about the exposure around the excellence and around having him see Black excellence, if you will, and to see that the stereotypes that are portrayed about our people are just that, stereotypes, and there's a whole nother side to who we are, that connectedness, the ability to have self-love and self-worth, and the ability to see it. We have a saying in our family is that you can't be it if you can't see it. And so I think, man, for me, it's about creating that connectiveness, seeing and appreciating. We're not anti-white, right? We're not against anything of that nature, but there's a value in there is an innate value in representation and appreciation of your race and your culture. So that's a real experience that we're going through now with him. But for me, I've had opportunities to go to predominantly white universities, but growing up in South Florida and just pretty much seeing one side of the Black experience, I wanted to see another side. I wanted to see professional corporate executives who look like me, who navigated in that space, and who still appreciated and represented the authenticity of being a Black American. But I think it's just such huge value, man, in being around like-minded people. The other thing that that my experiences of going to a predominantly white grad school was just the level of support, the level of reinforcement of who we were, and the level of preparing us to navigate in this white world that the HBCU experience provided for us. That really, I think, helped to propel my career, and not to mention the amazing bonds and friendships that I've developed along the way.
You know, in that segment, I just learned something from you, or got an idea. Is that, for me, my son, he's in middle school, similar situation. I think in his grade, blacks make up 4%. And so it's that exposure. Because I make sure to expose him to where he comes from. We don't have a lot of family here in Texas, but he spends quality time with his family as much as he can, just so he can know just where he came from.
Absolutely.
And his lineage. But I think, to your point, as we do talk about college, his dad's a Gator, his mom's a Gator, his immediate circle of influence are all Gators. So for sure, the University of Florida is on his radar. He gave me his life story when he's 4 or 5 that included going to the University of Florida. And I don't begrudge that, right? As long as it ain't Florida State, he can, carve his path. But I do want him to have that exposure so that he is able to make an informed decision when that time comes. So, shout out to you and Bianca for, just the boy that you all are raising, because Dallas is doing some great things.
Hey,
So,
and it's Howard University's homecoming, October 21st to the 23rd. Feel free to join us in Washington, D.C.
All right, I'll take that. I can take that back. I can take that back. All right. So the last piece, right, or not the last piece, but another dynamic to our Black connection and organization, so to speak, is our fraternity. You a Q, I'm a Sigma. I have my stories from campus that are not necessarily appropriate for this show. That's not the stuff we talk about on Unsolicited Genius. We may have a show that covers all that later. Me and my producer work through that.
Invite me back. I'll love to join that.
The X-Files of Greek life or something, but it's what it does today. We have the grad chapters, we have the formal dynamics that exist for life within the fraternities. But for me, it's also my family. So where people who I may be blood relations to are other places, have different levels of connection and availability, these group of cats that I call my fraternity brothers are bonded. We are bonded for life. And they're my son's uncles.
Right.
Their children are my nieces and nephews. Most of us don't spank anymore, but if it came down to it, any of them could get put over the lap. And so I find that whatever disconnect that may still be occurring in my life, that this bond, this connection that I committed to, for me, I think I was 19, has surpassed time. We are in each other's wills, you know what I mean? And I can't imagine who I am, what I would be doing without my fraternity brothers.
Absolutely.
What does Q resonate to for you today?
So I'll tell you that I love, I could just say ditto, right? Ditto, because I'm here today with my line brother, right? My line brother, our families, we're here from Martha's Vineyard, 4 or 5 years in the running. I have business, property investments, right? 2 of my line brothers, okay? One of my writing a book, right? One of my line brothers. So let me tell you, man, it is these gentlemen. For me personally, the story and the connectedness to the fraternity and my line brothers is all about brotherhood, right? manhood, scholarship, perseverance, uplift are the cardinal principles of Omega Psi Phi. And that manhood component is very important. Fortunately or unfortunately, you and I have very similar upbringings, raised by moms, right? Dads around, but not around. And so having that positive influence of manhood in your life, whether that's from a mentor, a mentee, but from a brother, someone on the same level as you, like-minded, equally yoked, similar attainment, has been pivotal in my life and in every aspect of it, from marriage to fatherhood, to being a son, being a Christian, the whole nine. These men, there's nine of us, so these 8 other men are very important to my life, and they hold a very, very special bond in my life, and they are truly brothers, right? And so I think those of us who are in fraternities and sororities, feel that, you can't always, it's almost like you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends and all. You didn't choose those line brothers,
Heck
right? Someone
no.
chose.
Heck
Someone,
no.
right? Someone chose them for you, and whether
You
you
get
like
who
it or
you
not,
get, baby.
you get who you get. And luckily, God is amazing, because I have 8 amazing line brothers. But it is a brotherhood of love, a brotherhood of support, amazing bond, and I don't know what my life would be without having pledged Omega and the bonds that I have established.
Awesome. All right. On that, we'll take a break and be right back.
You are listening to Unsolicited Genius. Unsolicited Genius.
Welcome back to Conversations with Carlton. I am with my esteemed guest, Roy Hawkins Jr. And, as we've talked about, Roy, the, Blackness, Black organization, I look at NFL, we're in preseason mode, and to know me is to know I love football. I'm excited.
Yep.
But then as I was looking at a couple of the games in the last couple days, I was reminded about the lack of diversity in the coaching and to not see the GMs on the field, but remember all this discussion that we had ending last season about the lack of diversity, in particular that the majority of the athletes on the field are Black. And so in remembering that, I thought about our work environments where they don't reflect, whether it's being in healthcare, that the leadership doesn't reflect the community that it's in, the percentage of minority employees that an organization has isn't reflective necessarily in the C-suite, in the boardrooms. And so in the NFL discussion, they talk about the decisions being up to the owners, but the owners not having that connection with those Black coaches or those that have the potential to be Black coaches, Black leaders for that organization. And I was like, are we talking about football, or are we talking about corporation XYZ kind of projecting that same excuse, justification? And so I wanted to bring it here to talk with you as a sports fan, as a professional, even as an entrepreneur. What is your perspective on that the lack of diversity is connected to the relationship that we do or don't have with the decision makers?
Man, I love, you are in fact a genius. I love it. The way that you frame questions, just the perspective. Carlton, that is it. That is the number one challenge and opportunity. We know that the world revolves around relationships. I am on your show today in the middle of my vacation because of a relationship. I love you. You're my friend. There's nothing you can ask me to do that I wouldn't do. And I would do it with my eyes closed. So think about that. Think about that feeling. Think about that safety. Think about that there's so much that comes with these relationships. And so I don't judge anyone for wanting to do business with, to bond with, to promote, and to develop people based off of their relationships. Okay, so that's the floor.
Okay.
I think the next level to that is, as you look around your relationships, how inclusive are you in those relationships? How diverse are you in those perspectives? I don't want all Black friends. I need to have friends from all over because I love food, right? I want to taste different things. I want to travel to different places. And so I'm very intentional about my relationships. And so that is the crux of the matter, is there has to be an earnest attempt to establish relationships with folks outside of your usual and customary comfort and safety zone, right? And so a lot of our NFL players, whoa, shame on them, right? Because here it is, you have 75, 80% of your workforce that are Black, and you don't have relationships with enough of them to begin to promote them into leadership roles within your organization, right? So that's not about finding the talent. That's not about going somewhere and we can't find them. They're right at your front door, right there on your fields. They're in your locker rooms, and so there has to be an earnest attempt to want to establish those relationships, right? Because that's really where the magic happens, right? And so I think that it's a cop out. I think that it is an excuse. I think that in our world, in my world, when I look around and I see who has ascended to leadership in some of the organizations, it's not people that look like you and I, right? We're few and far in between. But when you do the research, you find that there's some relationship with someone that they knew that was a decision maker. And that's unfortunately and unfortunately, we know the game. Now we just have to, make the connections and helping to change the dynamics of the game, man. But you look around and I was just talking to a few people the other day, and one day 4 people were telling me that they're the first of. I'm the first of, right? It's like, why are we in 2022 saying I'm the first Black to do anything, right? And so we gotta we can't barge our way into the system. We can't barge our way. We can make sure that we're prepared, that we're open to relationships, and we really got to start finding ways for some of our white leaders and decision makers to want to have an interest in this work. There are people. There's a national board movement that Joe Wilkes through NASI is leading, and what he's really doing is connecting with some of the owners and chairmen of boards and some of these majority organizations, and really, having the conversation around the Black experience, Black excellence, and how to create those bonds, and how you prepare people like myself and others to be prepared to serve on boards, right? So you can see there's a structured program here. in place for us to develop minority candidates, Black candidates in particular, but also getting these guys ready to establish these relationships with us, because that really is where it all starts, in the relationship space.
So one of the things that you articulate, well, not one of the things, the crux of what you talk about in building those relationships, I appreciate where you talk about the foundation, right? It makes sense that people promote, connect with the people that they have relationships with. But I guess as I sit here and hear everything you said, I try to be solution oriented. And so
Right.
1,000% agree with you. The NFL owners have no excuse. All these people that are in your organization, all these people that are on the field that you pay for, all these people connected with the entity that is your team, there's no excuse for you to have that a relationship, more relationships, so for connecting and opportunities as they present. But what about the flip side? I was having a conversation recently, more of a social discussion, but it's the perspective that, in a city like Austin, where it's very outgoing, very sociable, Blacks make up the minority, but Black people don't thrive here because there's not enough Black events. There's not enough, the question comes, where the Black people at? And I'm like, I know where the music is. I know where we could go catch the game. I know where they make good drinks. I know where they serve good food. But to say definitively that this place a thing where you're going to have a large group of Black people, it happens, but it's not consistent. But should that alone be the thing that defines my social experience and connecting it professionally? Are there things that we can do to help bridge the gap more effectively?
As you were talking, the one thing, and I know this isn't what you were saying, but what I heard what I held on to, we're not a monolithic people, right? And so all of us as Black men don't watch sports. All of us don't like music. All of us don't want to hang out and drink, right? And so I think that we have to broaden our perspective about our social gatherings, right? So because it is very from where I am, and I'm in Charlotte, I can even professional colleagues, same company, when my white colleagues ask me to hang out, it's usually to do fishing or golf or hunting or something, right? When my Black colleagues say let's hang out, it's a concert or a game. Or so the reality of the situation is, we are similar but very different. And I think that when we start to think about where people connect, where they spend their downtime, and that's where the relationships happen, right? I think we have a fundamental difference in what those things are, because I can't tell you that I don't struggle sometimes when they say, let's go hunting. Well, I don't want to go hunting no damn deer or, just pheasants. It's not my thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. But therein lies the opportunity, right? Not that we gotta go hunting. How do we bring them over here and do these things and make these connections? And then to your earlier point about the Black people in Austin, like I'm here in Pennsylvania and there's thousands of Black people. And I'm like, here is Black access. When you go back to your respective communities, where are we connecting? And how are we connecting? And how are we making sure that we're being diversity and inclusiveness of thought and of opportunity and of action? And I think that's where the miss occurs, man, because You can see it in church. You know, you go to any church on a Sunday, it's segregated, right?
Right.
You even go on any golf course, you know, it's the white. It's in that social realm is where we have the biggest opportunity to create some shared experiences so that we can begin to forge those bonds. And you can see that, you know what, Carlton's is exactly like you. He's a father, he's a successful business person. Here are things that that encourage him. So I don't know, man, but that is, to me, that's the biggest opportunity, and that's the challenge that I'm in the middle of right now in my work environment, is the Blacks and the whites and what we do, and how do we bring everyone together in a meaningful, intentional, and purposeful way.
And I guess my takeaway amongst everything is to be open. I
Yep.
think, I don't hunt, but I will go golf. I
Mhm.
haven't been fishing in a long time, but
Mhm.
that's something that I would do that's outside of my norm. And you're
Mhm.
right, everybody doesn't get behind concerts, everybody doesn't get behind sporting events, but the vast majority of everybody does have something that decompresses them. Everybody has some hobby that invigorates them. And so in wanting to connect to somebody specific, go visit with them. In wanting to connect, period,
Yeah.
go someplace that you wouldn't normally go.
Right.
Because I find that in my experience, again, here in Austin, they haven't, pandemic interrupted the schedule, but South by Southwest is that event for me, as it exists on paper and what I've seen. The Miami, boy be like, nah. But living here, it kind of being that event, that premier event for the city, man, to connect to that, man, I one year I went, I had the best time of my
Yeah.
life between the people I went with, the new connections I made, the events that I ran into, the performers that I ran into, some of the rooms that I was in. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know how as much as we may see each other on a consistent basis in a work environment, seeing ourselves without the suit and tie on, you just never know how you might vibe. But it's been open enough to allow for that opportunity and not necessarily expecting everybody to meet you where you are, even if it is the place that is most comfortable. Sometimes not even sometimes, right? Life begins when we step outside of that
When
comfort
you
zone.
step out, we've talked about Gene earlier, and very successful healthcare executive, and in the midst of a pandemic decided to write an album, right? And I what the going on that the limited amount of the journey that I have been on with him, but through my eyes, that journey has been one where at his album release party, it was all races, all culture, everyone there, because what he did was, outside of being a CEO of an organization, he brought together the lovers of music, right? And so all of the people from the organization that he knew and had come to learn and love to music, he brought them together. And I can't tell you how many doors on a personal level that's open for me being in that room, right? I'm a lover of music. Here's another guy that I would have never known, 65-year-old white man that I would have never known was a lover of jazz and R&B, right? But coming into that environment, I knew that. And so now the relationship has allowed us to forge some things forward exponentially faster than we would have been able to do had we not established that relationship early on. And so I will tell you that is my two simple words for where we are as a country is as it relates to race relation. The first is relationships, and I mean it to the core of who I am. We have to develop these relationships. The second is being able to be intentional about where we are, where we're going and what we know and what we don't know, right? But being very intentional about those conversations and those relationships. And so I think that's what's going to help. Oh, and from the intentional perspective, right, is being inclusive. So like my leaders is interesting now, I've been there for a year, but my question to them always before I give an answer is who was at the table and who needs to be at the table for this decision. And it's forcing them to be inclusive, right? It's you can't solve for a thing if you don't have the right people at the table. So relationships, intentionality, and being inclusive is really what it's going to take to move us forward.
Okay. All right, so I'll let you transition us on that. You talk about Gene and music and how people connect. So what are you listening to these days?
Man, I was thinking about that, listening to your other podcast, and like, look, my music taste is so eclectic, and one of my favorite artists is a guy named Ray LaMontagne, and he's awesome, right? He's a white guy, folk singer, kind of R&B, but that's who I'm listening to. Looking at my playlist right now, I've been listening to Nas, old school Illmatic Nas, right? That's been in the rotation on the trip. Dallas put me on the Brent Fayez. Have you heard about Brent Fayez?
Yeah, my goddaughter, I asked her, I that's my intro, or not even intro, it's the conversation piece I like to have just to understand what people are listening to. Maybe I might learn something. And she put me on to him.
But let me tell you what was a recent amazing opportunity for me. I went to the NACI CEO conference in Vegas a couple months, May. Mm-hmm. Man, I got a chance to see my favorite girl, Anita Baker. That's my favorite girl. Front row, brother. It was a treat and a joy of a lifetime. So I listened to it all. I'm listening to everything. It all depends on what the vibe is, and having a 15-year-old son, put me on all this new music, Oh, and then one of my favorite rappers, and it's a little raunchy, so don't judge me, but Future. I'm all about
Future.
Oh man, I'm all about Future. Future, my best friend in my head, man. I'm telling you, me, Andre 3000, and Big Boy and Future, we riding out.
Yeah. So you said a few things. One, I want to come back to Anita Baker, but with Future, I love his hooks. I love he features, and I think, as he gets propped for being a new, unique sound, unique voice, I dig that. But every time I dive into one of his albums, man, I'm checked out, halfway through.
Here's a recommendation. Do the Apple Essentials.
Okay.
Do the Apple Essentials, right? They got all the hits, and it's a flow, it's a vibe. I agree with you. Like, I'm a huge fan, but I haven't listened through that whole last CD because it takes me to many different places. But the Essentials, that's all the best of the best.
I'm always for evolving. I like Future, and again, I think he has unique voice, unique style, but the albums just don't get it for me.
Yeah.
So you talked about Anita Baker. I laugh because I love her too. Ooh. But the story, I fell in love when I was in, I want to say college, and it was a New Year's Eve concert that she did. And my mama made me go. So you know how whatever age, whether you 5, 45, 50, 65, you had that thing and your mama made you go. Mm-hmm. Man, I wanted to kick it with my friends. It's New Year's Eve. She had bought the ticket, so it wasn't even no option. So I was in there pouting. But when she got on stage looking glamorous and the band was playing and the lights and you hear her voice fill the auditorium through the mic, I was like, okay, then I'm going to like it. I'm going to like it.
That's my girl right there.
When she did No More Tears, man, it took everything.
One of my favorites.
Man, it took everything for me not to go to the front of the stage and just be like,
Yep, one of my favorites. That's my girl. Man, I tell you, I looked into it too because I didn't know she was there. Went online, saw she was there, man, and I one seat, this is me. So one seat, front row. I was all just looking up in space all night. Ah!
Yeah. Yeah, her glamour, her
Beautiful.
style, her voice. Oh man, she's
That
beautiful
voice.
woman, beautiful musician, just
Yeah,
beautiful vibe and
yeah,
everything that she does.
yeah.
Cool. So the game, he just came out yesterday. Have you had a chance to listen to that at all?
And there's another like if you God, this you might pull my black card. If you ask me right now to tell you one game song, I probably don't
That's
know.
okay. It's we got our thing, right? So
Right,
it's
right.
no judgment. But if you have a chance,
I'm gonna listen.
it's a grown man's album. It's 31 songs, so it's long,
Ooh.
but he has a lot of features. So it's almost like it's a structured compilation so that we're not overwhelmed with the game, but the production is tight, the features are tight, and I mean he got
Download it.
everybody.
Look,
He
that
got Rick
download it right
Ross,
now.
and then he got a track, as we've talked about race relations. Now I ain't gonna spoil it for you, but he goes in on Eminem. I think the song is
Well,
"I'm the Black Slim
that
Shady" or something, brother. Listen, we could have a
I'm gonna
whole episode, a couple episodes to kind of break down the dynamics and the nuance that the game speaks to with his perspective and relationship with Eminem. So I leave it at that. Check it out.
leave it
Don't
at that.
skip to the Eminem song. Just let it come to you. But
Because
I
it's a
give him a
build up.
clap. I give Game a clap for what he just released.
Well, I got a long travel day tomorrow back down south, so that's
Okay.
gonna be my
All right. Yeah, do that.
listen.
All right. So that's what you're listening to. What are you watching these days?
Man, I've never been much of a big TV watcher, but with working in Charlotte and the family still in Fort Lauderdale, going back and forth, I find myself with a lot of free time. So I've been watching all kind of weird stuff, man. But there's this show on. You ever watch this show called The Old Man?
Oh,
It's
I
like,
heard my Facebook family talk about
yeah,
it. I
yeah,
haven't
no, it's
seen it
good.
yet.
That's what I'm watching. Two things. I'm watching The Old Man, and I'm watching City on the Hill. I have started reading a couple books, maybe a couple years ago, by Don Winslow, and he has this whole crime series, but it's really about dirty cops, right? And they just happen to be dirty cops in Boston, Massachusetts, somewhere, and how they are just dirty cops. And so there's a series out now called City on the Hill that is really good. And it's about dirty cops. So that has been what I've been watching. But more importantly, what I'm really interested in it is some of the most difficult and challenging race relations in our history have been between Black people and the Irish people in Massachusetts and in Boston, and learning just about the history behind that, and how as immigrants the Irish folks were poor and didn't have much, and during the time where integration occurred, and then they had to share the little bit that they did have with Black. It's just very interesting to me. So I'm all into this Boston dirty cop, City on the Hill show, City on Fire book. All of the above is what I'm reading these days.
Okay. All right.
What do you read? What are you reading?
What am I reading? What am I watching? Because I
what are you
just,
watching? Sorry.
What am I watching? I'm not watching any series or anything right now. I've been traveling and doing some things, but I've been in this space where I've been watching old movies. So what I just watched last night was, I say old, some of them old Terminator back in the 80s, but
Oh yeah.
5, I watched Hustle and Flow. You know, kind of predicated on some of the stuff that I'm doing with my pro coaching practice. I've been, you know, in this motivated, inspirational stage. So I've just been, you know, wanting to maintain that energy. And I often, people say, "What are you doing?" I tell them I'm hustling and flowing. Just, you know, that's just
I
my
like
my
it. I
catchphrase.
like it.
I said, well, let me watch my boy DJ again for the, you know, umpteenth time. And, you know, I don't know what
I
it
like
is. It's like something that you've seen 100 times, you watch it that 101 time and you pick up on something different. And when I tell you, man, that hustle and flow, it just inspires me so much because one, I love music from the South. I love to just make it bumpity bumpity bump. And so I thought the production, the music, 3 6 Mafia won an Oscar for
Mm-hmm.
soundtrack for music and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that part is hype in and of itself. But you know, from where he was and what he perceived his life to be, that one track where he said it ain't over for me, that was so impactful because despite the lifestyle, despite the lack of resources, despite the reality in front of him, his heart was telling him something different. And rather than
Absolutely.
settle in the fear, because he there was a scene where somebody's used the word scared, and DJ, the main character, he didn't even want to hear it. Like, yeah, I'm not even to talk about scared. What's scared? Knowing he was scared. But then fast forward in the movie where he needs all the courage juice that he can gather to step out, he says, "I'm not scared," because he operating off faith. He
That's right.
operating his heart, and he
That's it.
knows, despite his hustle and the legalities and the appropriateness or lack thereof in what he was doing, they developed a skill, they iron sharpened iron. So his sword was being sharpened in this space, and he brought those skills and abilities to this space in order to pursue what was in his heart. And so that,
Yeah,
you
man.
know, amongst everything, like I said, watching that last night, it had me back up in my feels
Well,
and
I
give me
can
that
see the parallel.
inspiration.
I can see the parallel in the storyline, the passion, and knowing you personally, right? Where you are,
Yes,
your journey,
yes,
right? So I
yes.
love it. I love when we can create those connections. And what I am going to challenge you to watch too. We talked about early before we started, but you need to watch The Inkwell so you can get ready for your
Yeah,
Martha's
that's
Vineyard.
and Wes, when you mentioning you out in Martha's Vineyard, it's been a long time since I saw it. That would
But
fall into the space that I'm in. I'm wanting to go backwards. You know, anything
yep,
before
yep, yep,
2000, I'm
yep,
wanting to reconnect with because I either haven't seen it as long in a long time, or there's some messages that resonate today
yeah,
that I want to make sure that I pick up on because it's all art and it's always available for us to get to.
yep, for
All right,
sure.
so
That's what it's all
Ink
about.
will. All right, I you see what I'll find it somewhere. iTunes, Apple,
Somebody got it out there.
somebody
Yeah.
got it. Google. All right, so I'll get you out of here on this. What are you reading?
So again, I'm reading a couple things. I talked to you about the City on Fire kind of novel, but from an uplift perspective, I am reading the 1619 Project, which is just amazing. Actually, Nicole Hannah Jones was just out here at the little Morehouse gathering yesterday. Just saw her. Reading the 1619 Project. Gene has challenged a few of us. Black leaders in the organization to read a book called 400 Souls. It's really just, you know the story, right? It's about our journey as from slavery to now. And what I'm listening to as a book is the Will Smith biography. I'm almost done with that. So those are the three things that are in some stages of finalization. I'm almost done with those. But yeah, man, it's really been interesting to to read about the 1619 Project. That's really where my heart is right now, understanding that history. And then listening to my boy Will and how he grew up and what led up to all of the drama that he's enthralled in now. So
yeah, I haven't read the book. I've gotten it's on the list, but it's interesting based on what I understand is in it. It's amazing just how all these things are connected, all of who we are, all of what we do. Like, you know, in 1980 something, Golden Glades Apartments, Miami, Florida, podcast wasn't no word, right? Let alone that this Miami Norland boy be sitting across from this Carol City boy, talking our talk, living our lives, fulfilling our dreams in these capacities. You know what I mean? And there's a reason for this. And at minimum, God knew, right? God knew. People in our circle, in our community, didn't know it would be this, but they knew we would be doing something. All just predicated on who we are and what our hearts told us we were going to be. So Will is on my list, and especially
no fear but faith. Fear but faith.
Yeah.
I love that. You got me wanting to download Hustle and Flow now. I'm gonna check out.
I watched it a few times. I rented it, so I got like 20 more hours before it expires. So I done ran it through twice, if I'm being honest.
You might as well buy the damn thing by now, bro. Like, just go ahead and buy it.
It's just weird, you know. Go ahead.
I'm like that, like, and this is not an inspiring story, but my favorite movie is Life. And so it's on every device I have, because whenever I'm down or want to laugh, I just boop.
Which one? What movie?
Life.
Oh, Life. Yeah. No, Life. You know,
you're right. One more time, Claude. Say Life. Say watch. One more time.
Listen, you know, I think it's owning something that I can't touch. It's still weird for me. So to buy it, because I feel like in a lot of ways, I feel that there's this undertone that they could take it away from me at any time, just because it's digital.
Because it's out there in the cloud.
Yeah, it's in the cloud. I can't touch it. So, but you're right. I need to go ahead and buy it, because in any given time.
That's your Christmas gift. That's your Christmas gift. I'm gonna send you your own. Don't buy it. I got you.
All right, that'll work.
I'm gonna send you.
I'll take that.
Hustle and Flow.
I'll take that. Well, all right, my brother. I love you. No doubt about that. Thank you for coming on Conversations with Carlton, the Unsolicited Genius production. You know, proud of you. I brag about you all the time. I know somebody that, right? And so, you know, keep doing what you do, because you're not just making a difference for your family. You, sir, are having influence on the planet. And I'm so proud to be able to be connected to you, call you my friend. And so I just want the world to see that you out here doing your thing, and they got some books to listen to, they got some music to listen to, and they got some relationships that they can go forward being intentional about. So thank you for joining us, and we'll keep at it.
Amen. Thank you. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure. And to your listening audience, remember, he ain't heavy. Reach back as we climb. One love.
Amen. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Conversation with Carlton. We'll catch you next time.
You are listening to
wherever we are, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, like, if it's something to be liked, subscribe if it's something to be subscribed to, and follow. That's how we grow our reach. It's how we grow our brand.